Let's not forget, now that the map changed in the last election cycle, there's a large part of the Kansas City metropolitan area that does include the 2nd Congressional District. It's not all about the 3rd District anymore, as it was for so many years in the Kansas City area. The 2nd District now, has quite a bit of the Kansas City metropolitan area in it, or at least more than it had, including, northern parts of Wyandotte County. So Jake LaTurner announced in a bit of surprise that he was retiring here earlier in the year. So now that race is heated up, and one of the folks running is Jeff Kahrs. He joins us on KCMO. Jeff, good morning. Introduce yourself to the KCMO audience, who you are and why you're running for this seat.
Thank you, Pete. It's a pleasure and honor to be on Monday in the morning. So I say good morning to you and your listeners. My name is Jeff Kahrs. I am from Topeka. Most recently, for the last 3 years, I worked for Jake LaTurner as a senior advisor and district director. And when he announced he wasn't going to run again, we just received so much calls and encouragement from folks around the state and from Washington, D.C. to get in this race and to run, to make sure that there would be another good, solid conservative to represent this district up in Washington, D.C. So my wife and I, Felita and I, we took a lot of counsel. We prayed a lot as people of faith. It felt like this was something that we were supposed to do. So we're in this race. As you know, it's a sprint. Normally, when folks run for Congress in an open seat like this one, you've got maybe even 15 months to run. We have 15 weeks. And so we've been working our tails off the last 11 weeks, getting around to the 26 counties, including, as you announced earlier, the Wyandotte, which is new to the district.
Yeah.
So thank you for that.
No doubt it is. And that's what makes this even more interesting for us here in the Kansas City area. And being on 95.7 FM, I will say as well, we now have a full signal blast all the way out to Topeka, where you are located as well. So one of your opponents is Derek Schmidt. Of course, bigger name ID than you, since he was recently the Republican candidate for governor, which many people assume give him a bit of a leg up. What would you say to folks who are looking at the ballot and saying, I don't know this guy, Jeff Kahrs. I know Derek Schmidt from his long time in statewide office, his bid to be the next governor, and why should I vote for Jeff over a guy I know and have voted for before?
Thank you for that. Well, the reality is that people really don't know Derek Schmidt. He's never had a primary before. He was basically handed the AG's seat, and then, of course, he had his failed governor's race. But the reality is, Derek is a moderate. I'm a consistent conservative. I've only worked for conservatives. I've been in the trenches for the last 30 years. All the conservatives that are lining up in this race are lining up behind me, whether it's CPAC, whether it's Congressman T. Hart, Congressman Jim Ryan, Ambassador Sam Brownback, several members from the House Freedom Caucus, the group that Jim Jordan established. All the hardline conservatives, the true conservatives, the grassroots conservatives, which is what I am, have lined up behind my campaign because they know that Derek is really a moderate at heart. He served in the Senate for 10 years. He was chosen by the moderates to be their leader when the moderates controlled our state Senate. He voted for some of the largest tax increases in the history of the state. He voted to increase spending year after year. He voted against E-Verify 5 times. The one thing that helps make sure that illegals don't take our jobs away from us, and he voted against that. He voted against putting further restrictions on abortion clinics. He even voted no against the Choose Life license plate. So that's Derek's heart. He's voted with Democrats. He's a moderate at heart, and we need to make sure that this district stays represented by a true conservative who's worked for President Trump. As you know, before I worked for Jake, President Trump was impressed with the work that we did with Governor Brownback and welfare reform, cutting our TANF rolls in half. So the president invited me to his administration, appointed me to oversee HHS in the Midwest region in KCMO, and so I'm the only conservative that's in this race that has actually worked for the president, worked to implement his agenda. So I'm the grassroots conservative. I'm the American First conservative. And we're working hard to get our name ID out there. We're on the radio. We're going to be up on TV shortly. But the good thing is that conservatives generally can figure out who the real conservative is in this race. And this is really a two-man race. It's between me and Derek. And so there's a clear choice for the voters out there. You can go along with get along, a moderate Republican like Derek, or you can make sure that there's going to be one more loyal foot soldier in the U.S. House of Representatives to help implement President Trump's agenda to try to turn this country around before it's too late.
Jeff Kahrs is his name. He is running in Kansas's 2nd Congressional District, being vacated by the retiring Jake LaTurner, including parts of the Kansas City Metro, half of Wyandotte County, moving on up north and west from there. So, Jeff, what about, that issue? If you end up in Washington, D.C., what committees, what would you want to be that thing that you are known for, that you are really focused on if you end up in D.C. on behalf of the people of the 2nd Congressional District in Kansas?
Well, thank you for that. Well, I want to caucus with the House Freedom Caucus. I believe they're the remnant. I don't plan on doing obstruction. Obstruction doesn't work. It doesn't help America. But I'm against earmarks. I'm against omnibus appropriations bills. We need to close the border down. We need to finish the wall. We need to use the military to secure the border. And we need to deport the illegals that are currently in our country. And we'll start with all the terrorists and the military combatants that have come in under President Joe Biden. We have to undo all the poor fiscal policies of President Biden to get inflation under control. And we have to continue to fight back at what I call the collapse of our culture in this country, the transgender agenda, the woke agenda. We cannot allow this to continue. We cannot subsidize hospitals that are performing this heinous, evil practices on minor kids that are simply confused about who they are. We have to stop these practices. Our country is in trouble, and voters know that, and they sense that. And when I go door to door, I hear that from the voters. But it's not too late to turn this around. I have faith that President Trump's going to get reelected in November, is going to be sworn in January. But he's got a tough agenda, and he wants to do some hard things. And we can't allow a moderate to get up there and to be squishy on it. And unfortunately, Derek's voting record is poor when it comes to illegal immigration. And so I'm asking the voters, if you want to send another hardline conservative up to Washington to stand side by side with President Trump to implement his agenda to make America good again, go to jeffkarsforcongress.com. It's Kahrs with a K, Kahrs. And you can find out about that position and all my other positions as well.
Jeff, thank you very much for the time. Good luck on the campaign trail.
Thank you, Pete. Appreciate it.